Hello, everybody. Hope everyone is having an awesome day, evening, wherever you're tuning in from. I'm tuning in from Driggs, Idaho, a place I've never been before, but I'm out on a 3-week adventure trip with some fun and some remote work. But I'm doing it from wherever I choose to, and I've been with a hiking group. We hiked the Grand Tetons yesterday, 21-mile hike. 4,700 feet up. It was epic. Boomer did not come with me. I'll post it later on social media, but it's great to see you all tonight. For those who are tuning in, I know it's summertime, it's vacation time. There's a lot of people who are sharing that they won't quite, be able to make it today. So we'll have maybe a smaller group, but that's all good. Hope you guys ready to kind of tune in and connect on this topic of forgiveness, which is it can be a pretty heavy topic, and certainly we probably can't cover all aspects of it in an hour. Also, if there's anything else anybody wants to bring up or talk about, we can do that after we kind of get through the main topic here. Now, McKenna is overseas, and she did set her alarm to get up at 3 a.m. to help facilitate this, but I told her she could go back to sleep. So I will be multitasking here and admitting people in and doing admin as well. And hopefully I can use my fighter pilot skills here to manage the room while I'm also leading the coaching. All right, so if you have not tuned in before, Zoom just updated their view here. So let me make sure I know what I'm doing here. I'm going to share my screen. And this is kind of what our rules of engagement are for our time together. And, be compassionate on yourself and others. My intent is to create a safe space for us to be able to engage on the things that are impacting our lives and our hearts, that we're open, we're present. I'm here coaching, but we're also coaching each other. I don't have all the answers. I'm not the guru, but I certainly have a lot of life experiences here and learned things along the way that I'm sharing in these free coaching calls. And I think this comes from a friend of mine who always quotes this. I think it comes from 12-step groups where he says, take what works and discard the rest. So just like anything, any book we're reading, anybody we're listening to, there's some things that are going to land on you and there's some things that are not. So just like, whoop, just, let those things roll off you. And if something lands on you, then, take that and let it work. And look, we're talking about some painful topics from time to time. Our intent is not to be on the surface, to go deep. But sometimes, things can be too painful and touch a nerve. This is obviously coaching and educational. I'm not a mental health professional. So take care of yourself if you need to disengage, if you need to seek help. That's my disclaimer here. Do what you need to do in order to protect yourself. Okay. So I often show this slide. Part of what my purpose is in life is to help people in my coaching, my keynote speaking, and this adventure retreat that I'm leading here in a couple of weeks. I'm super excited about is to help us all increase the space between stimulus and response so that we have a little bit more space in anything that happens in our external environment, and then how we process it internally, and then how we choose to respond as opposed to us reacting to things, right? So if we can just create a little more space and keep increasing that wedge, even though it may feel like it's just a couple of seconds, when someone who repeatedly triggers us, does what they always do, that always hits that nerve, that we have a little more space between, okay, what's going on inside me? What's happening here? What is this pattern that I'm in? How can I choose something, different? How can I choose a path to wholeness and healing for myself? And how do I choose a response that maybe changes the dynamic? So this could be used for literally any topic that we are talking about in coaching, and just anything in life. It's all an inside job from my view. And if we can just create a little more space and increase our awareness of what's happening on the outside, what's going on the inside, and then we choose to respond instead of just reacting. That's kind of part of what my mission is in life, and these practical tools on these different topics to kind of just help people just push that wedge out a little bit more. Okay. So I'd love to hear, I'm going to stop sharing, but where everybody, if you can, put in the chat where you're dialing in from. And also, you don't need to share the circumstances. We can maybe get to that later, but is there somebody that comes to mind? You don't have to say their name, but a role that you are reflecting on that maybe there's still a need to forgive. And is there, it's my mom, it's my dad. They could be living, they could no longer be living. That doesn't matter. Where you're dialing in from. So if you can type into the chat where you're dialing in from, and is there a particular person, if you feel safe to describe it, is there a particular person or a particular someone in your life who this would maybe land on you for, and you're looking for some new tools related to forgiveness? Who's going to be the first brave soul? Type in. Goodness, awkward. Daniel in transit from Arizona to Kentucky. All right, currently in Tulsa. Thank you, calling from Arizona. Okay, you guys are getting the where you're dialing in from, but also share if you can. Brenda's back from Morocco in Virginia. Welcome back to America. Brenda, it's awesome. All right, come on, everybody. Type in if you can. Anybody want to share any particular? Done a lot of work with my past, forgiven my dad. Very grateful for him. Thanks, Eduardo. Thank you for sharing that. Before we go on, I do want to pull up really quick. Hang on, I'm looking for something here. I'm multitasking, so just give me a second. So you may or may not saw in the group. Yeah, I just want to make sure Daniel's here. Yeah, Daniel, you are here. I would really hope that you can share at some point. You have to do it right now, what you shared in the Facebook post. It was like super profound, but like hold that thought for now. And if you're willing, I'd love to have you come on camera and share it. Oh, your sister. Thanks for sharing that. Your sister made you steal your daughter. It's awful. Okay. Oh, Kim is here with Judy. Okay, awesome. All right, great. Well, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen here, and I'm going to just share some of my thoughts on this topic and some of my own experiences. So, actually, I don't have to share my screen in order to share my personal experience. Sorry. I've mentioned it in different places. I mentioned in the email that I sent out, but I mean, we all have examples along the way in life. I mean, there may be things that happen this week where somebody, somebody irritated us, or something. It was kind of a small level thing that somebody angered us. Somebody said they were going to do something and they didn't. Like, so living a life of forgiveness for a lot of the little things is something that we could be doing all the time. When I think of like big life events, big T trauma or little T trauma, like Gabor Mate talks about, for me, my journey was one related to my experiences after losing my dad at 12. And then later looking to my coach in high school as a father figure, and then him violating that trust and abusing me and other girls. I realized later in time, he took classic predator, looking for the fatherless or those who are vulnerable. And I clearly was vulnerable. And he took a lot from me as a fatherless, innocent, teenager. And it deeply and profoundly impacted my life. And it took me years, really. I mean, I continued to function. I survived. I didn't let it hold me back. In fact, I let it propel me forward on my path in my life. Like, don't tell me I can't don't tell me I can't fly fighter jets just because I'm a girl. Like, I was actually propelled by my trauma before I actually unpacked my trauma, right? Where somehow I allowed it to be jet fuel for me while I was still peeling back the onion of healing. And later on, I experienced sexual assault in the military, which again, like, profoundly impacted me in deep ways, as you can imagine. And I was on a road trip. I mean, I'm on a road trip right now, and there's something about like sitting in your car where you turn the noise level down, right? And you're like, you can't keep yourself super busy, which sometimes we do to be distracted, to not deal with our pain. And so it's like sitting in my car, I was driving somewhere, and I was listening to music by one of my favorite musicians at the time, David Meese. He's a Christian musician. And again, it doesn't matter what the vessel is. It could be a book you're reading. It could be a podcast you're listening to. It could be a billboard or something somebody says as a stranger. But somehow you get these divine messages, but this particular song was very focused. The name of the song was 70 times 7. And so the song was about forgiveness. And I mean, the lyrics, just I'm listening to it on my cassette tape, and this was after I'd experienced a sexual assault, and I was still very numb from it. Was still recent enough that I was still dealing with this awful trauma that had happened to me. And this message that came to me 70 times 7, forgiveness, forgiveness, was just like, I literally played this cassette, like, I want to say 100 times. Like, I kept going back, rewind, play again, rewind, play again. It was just something like spoke to my soul. And that was, for me, started on this journey of how do I get free from what happened to me? And I didn't really understand. I'm using words now that I didn't understand at the time. I now kind of have the wisdom to put words to it, of freeing myself from making myself to continuing to suffer from what happened to me because of my unforgiveness from the perpetrator. Okay. And so for me, my journey was very much a emotional and spiritual one. And for that case, that particular case of me kind of spiritually, emotionally, like energetically freeing myself from the bitterness and the anger and the rage about what had happened to me, so that it wasn't impacting me then, in the present, because the violation happened in the past. And so freeing myself from what I was doing to myself from a spirit of rage and unforgiveness, that was a journey for me, and it was very real. Like, I became freed from that. And it took years and years and years later, like different story, didn't, I kind of worked through my own healing for me to actually face that related to my coach, which was actually harder for me. But years and years later, there was something else that prompted me realizing that I still had some buried rage from, understandably, by the way, understandably, for what my coach took from me and stole from me, right? And so it was years later that I went through this journey to free myself from that anger and rage in a process of forgiveness related to that. Now, I mean, the onion, and like anything, the onion peels back every once in a while. I think for any experience in our life, we still find like, oh, there's a little more healing to do here and there. So I'm not saying like I've, I'm complete in all my healing from all the negative things that happened, but I'm on the journey. And this forgiveness piece has been a profound part of my journey. And I will say that I, even in that journey, which to me was not just a one-time event, and I'll kind of get into some of the principles I've learned related to this issue of forgiveness, because sometimes you literally got to forgive every moment or every day. It's a repeated thing that you've got to do, rinse and repeat, because things keep emerging. And so have compassion on yourself if things emerge, and then you got to let it go. They emerge, let it go. But for me, I had to I evolved from, even in a place of initially like, okay, I'm the victim, you're the perpetrator, and you're evil and I'm innocent, and now I'm forgiving you from you did something to me and I'm forgiving you. There's still an element of almost judgment and judgmentalism in that, if that makes sense, even though something did something very harmful to you. And so, but that's what I needed to do at the time, as kind of my first step. I will tell you that I feel like I've even evolved further since then to be in a place that's even more freed from that altogether. Um, and I know it sounds crazy, but even having a spirit of compassion on the people who have harmed you and hurt you, and that doesn't mean you let them off the hook, right? But just having a spirit of compassion, almost like, and it doesn't matter what your faith background is here, but Jesus said, forgive them for they don't know not what they're doing. But like that for anybody, when they're committing harmful acts, it's their lower self that's doing that. It's their wounded self, it's their broken self. Doesn't mean that they should be let off the hook. Don't, let me be clear. But it's about what's going on inside you. It's not about like what kind of accountability happens in the 3D world. Okay. So what I'm saying for my own journey is this has been my journey of coming to a place of forgiveness, which also was very freeing, but also included still some level of judgment. And then even further along in my healing journey, coming to a place of even viewing those who harmed me as a little boy, and the harm that had likely been done to them, to have them grow to a place where hurt people, if that makes sense. So I'm only just sharing my story. That may land as offensive on some people, but it's the only way I can describe what I've been through. And just want to share some of the things that perhaps, could land on you for your own situation. So here's just some of the thoughts I have on the topic about, why to forgive. And I'm just going to leave this without going full screen, if that's okay. And I'm going to move the screen here. So from my view, forgiveness is not about them. It's about, it's about you. Okay. And I put this in the email I sent out earlier this afternoon. It's a quote by somebody else. Bitterness is the poison pill you swallow, expecting the other person to die. So when we are unwilling to forgive somebody, and by the way, sometimes this is a conscious thing, like we're angry and it's conscious. We know we're angry. We're like, my mother or my father didn't do what I needed them to do for me, or they overtly harm me. Sins of omission or commission, right? Like they didn't do what I needed, or they did do things that harm me, or whatever it is, my ex-spouse, or again, this could be big T trauma or little T trauma, like stuff where just somebody said they were going to do something they didn't, or somebody like overtly betrayed you or violated you. We often have conscious, like, I'm angry at that person, I'm rageful. There's other times where it's actually unconscious. We're not even aware. It's subconscious, unconscious, that we've got some deep anger that we're like, no, I'm not angry at that, but there's something actually still running in the background. It's just like there is a kind of hidden suppressed rage that's going on. The point is, like, be open to, like, all right, shine the light on it. Holy Spirit, whatever your spiritual beliefs are, just like shine the light on it. Is there anything in me that is an unconscious, anger, an unconscious unforgiveness or rage? And how do I get freed from that? And it's not about them. It's about you. It's about you coming to a place of freedom. This other quote is a proverb. I think it's an old Chinese proverb or something. If you seek revenge, you better dig two graves. Like, you better dig one for yourself too, because it's going to ruin you if you're going to hang on to that. Okay. So again, my view and my experience and what I've come to believe is divine wisdom is, as we're walking our time in this impermanent physical vessel we have on this planet, there are opportunities for us to learn lessons and to grow. And those lessons are repeated until they're learned. And I'm sure we can all think about some situation. It could be, again, a painful situation, or it could be something that's not so painful, but where we had an opportunity to learn a lesson and we didn't graduate from the lesson. And then the same situation with a different name, different face happens again. We're given the opportunity to learn the lesson again. So if we have the opportunity to grow from releasing anger and embracing forgiveness, and we don't do it, you may be given more opportunities in order to do that, is what I'm getting at, right? You may be provided more opportunities from the universe. Like, okay, let's try again. I'll give you a mulligan, and you potentially have been piling on more painful opportunities for you. So I personally have come to a point where I want to graduate from the lesson as soon as possible and grow, so I don't have to repeat lessons, because the lessons are repeated until they're learned, from my view. And I just also believe, again, mastering forgiveness kind of moves you up you're evolving and growing, which is a part of our purpose on this planet, in my view, to higher levels of consciousness. I'm not trying to get too woo-woo here, but just to kind of, there's a guy named David Hawkins. He's got a number of great books out there, but one of them's called Power versus Force. And I know this is small print, you can really see it, but he can look it up yourself if you want to. But he talks about how kind of we're all like living in some place on this scale of this map of consciousness, and it's kind of predominantly where we are existing in all aspects of our life. And some people are stuck on the very bottom, where they're stuck in shame or guilt or apathy or grief. As you can see, those are in the bottom red, and their emotions that they predominantly are living are regret, despair, blame, and humiliation. But the hope would be that we actually, as we're growing as humans, like, we're moving our way up to, like, all right, let's get to a place where we're love, peace, joy, abundance. Like, we're actually free from these negative things that are impacting us and holding us back, and we're growing and we're evolving. And so my desire is that I'm moving myself up this map, and I'm looking for where I'm in a place of love and peace and joy, right? Where I actually am, not having things hold me back, not having stuff that I experienced in the past impacting my present, not having fear of the future hold me back. Like, that's the journey I'm on. And I hope that is the journey we're all on. It's a matter of whether we're going to just stay stuck in one of these bands and be like, I'm not evolving anymore. Awful things have happened in my life. I'm just going to sit in this orange anger band here. And I'm going to die here. Like, that's a choice. That's a choice. We all know people who have done that, right? And that is a choice. I'm choosing not to do that. You're here tonight, hopefully, because you're choosing, if you have any sort of anger stuck in you, it's like, no, I want to graduate from that. Graduate to pride, move up to courage. Let's even get neutral. Like if we could just get neutral, we're actually moving up the scale. So we're not actually being driven by anger, and move our way towards, acceptance and, love and joy and all that. So again, it's just little nuggets from the things that I've learned along the way, mostly the hard way. I already kind of quoted the spirit of what Jesus said. Forgive them, Father. They don't know what they're doing. There are people that are committing stuff like that are on that lower red band and orange band for a variety of reasons. My view and experience is also that forgiveness is not a one and done event. May not be a one and done event for some people. And Daniel, you shared this, maybe you've got one and done. You were instantly freed from something that had been holding you back for decades. And that's awesome. And people have experiences like that. You literally transcended a moment and then you're done. For other people, I believe, and what I've seen myself and what I've experienced, sometimes it's a process where it's like, all right, I'm choosing to forgive. I'm making a conscious choice to forgive something that happened to me, to forgive this person. But you know what? You may not be complete in your healing. And so even though your intentions were there, you were truly like prayerfully, however it is you were engaging in this, like you really felt like it was genuine that you forgave, but then the next day or the next week you feel something rising again, like and then then we have self-loathing, like I thought I forgave and now I'm not, I'm still angry. Just keep forgiving, right? Just keep forgiving is the point. It may not be a one and done, it may be a rinse and repeat for you, but if you're committed and you have the intention to forgive and let go, then just keep doing it as it rises. This last point comes from a really good friend of mine, Sam Karashi. I've mentioned him before. He's in a network that I'm in. He actually has helped me in my own journey of healing after I was attacked last year and just kind of making sure I don't have any emotional stuff stuck in me. And it's his view. He's he's an expert in these issues and an expert in people healing from their emotional wounds and like releasing suppressed emotions. And he recently shared that he was reflecting on in his own kind of growth that we often think of forgiveness as the tool, like I'm going to forgive and therefore I'm going to heal. And he actually looks at it differently, where he says, hey, if you go through a process to heal and a process to release suppressed emotions, forgiveness can be an outcome of that. Like you can then be like, oh yeah, of course I'm going to let that go because now I don't have anything still stuck in me. So forgiveness is the byproduct of you doing the inner work. I mean, I believe, I love Sam and I believe that can be true, but I also believe people can forgive as a part of their healing. It's just a matter of like what you feel led to do. You may not have all your suppressed emotions completely expressed or all your wounds completely healed, but if you feel you want to forgive somebody, you feel led to forgive them. You're like, don't say, oh, I'm going to wait till I'm all healed before I do that, right? Just let it go now. And it may be a rinse and repeat and just be a part of your journey. Just wanted to reflect on that a little bit though. What forgiveness is not, this is important because when we get on this topic, people right away, especially when I shared kind of my personal story, is like, you're letting somebody who sexually abused you off the hook? Like, no, this has nothing to do with them. This is what's going on inside me, okay? This is about my journey and my inner work. And it is separate and distinct from what steps you feel led to take in order to hold somebody accountable, in order to create a boundary for yourself, in order to keep you safe, in order to put them in jail. Okay, so forgiveness doesn't mean like, oh, it's okay, you don't have to be held accountable. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Forgiveness is about what's going on in here, okay? Forgiveness also does not mean that you are reconciling the relationship, okay? So it doesn't mean, because I forgave my coach for abusing me, doesn't mean I called him up and said, do you want to get together like the good old days? Like, go out running? No, I'm never going to see that man again. And I never desire to. So forgiveness is not reconciliation. Now, there may be reconciliation separately. It depends on the relationship and it depends on the circumstances. It depends how you feel led. You may have a spouse who betrayed you or lied to you or cheated on you, and you're in this place of like, what am I to do about this, right? And if you're getting yourself to a place where you don't want to end the relationship, but you're going to get to a place of forgiveness, there's also accountability. It doesn't mean they're just let off the hook, right? But you may desire to somehow reconcile, but that is a separate topic. That is a separate decision from the forgiveness decision. I hope that makes sense. Not going to focus on this tonight because it could be a whole nother session, many sessions, but oftentimes the people that what we need to forgive is ourselves. And sometimes we need to forgive ourselves for something we actually did. Like we actually did something wrong. We actually said something that harmed somebody. Like we were the perpetrator. You know, hopefully nobody on here is an abuser or committing any crimes, but the tongue actually can, you know, can be a weapon. And we may understandably, because of, you know, just we're humans, we may have things that we need to ask for forgiveness for. Okay. And so we have guilt and shame associated with something we did. But there's also times where we take on guilt and shame for something we experienced, but we're not the perpetrator. So oftentimes people who are victims of abuse or crime, things like that, somehow they take on guilt and shame. Like, oh, if I had just, you know, not done this or that. You see this happen all the time with kids, you know, kids blaming themselves or their parents divorcing or abuse happening to them, where they take on guilt and shame where there is no place for that. But they still feel guilt and shame, and they've got to let that go for themselves. That's a whole nother kind of healing process. But there are times where we're the one that needs to be forgiven, like legit. Okay. So we'll get into kind of what the perfect apology is a little bit later here. So here's some of the techniques that I have experienced and what I've learned from other experts through my life related to forgiveness. The first part of it, as I mentioned already, Sam Karashi talks about this, is it is important to go through whatever steps work for you to process and express the unhealed wound and the suppressed emotions. There are all these different modalities out there, different therapies, different ways you can do that. But you know, forgiveness can be one element of it, but it's not the only element of you being freed from what happened to you, if that makes sense. So like a step on your journey is to make sure you're committed to be like, hey, is there anything that needs to be healed here from what I experienced? I have really felt just a beautiful result, and I've seen others as well. When you're looking at, again, this can be harder to do depending on what it is you're dealing with. You look at the person as a 4 to 6 year old boy or girl, and you see them there as the child that they were, and imagining the innocence that they had then, and whatever it is, the journey that they took to get from there to what it is, how the actions they were taking in life, and the impact that it was having on others. But picturing them as kind of their higher self, which is like just as this innocent, allows you to look with some compassion on the person, instead of just through the eyes of the harm. And I'm sure you've all heard the term hurt people, right? One other tool, again, this is all like doing the inner work, is, and these are not easy questions to ask, but is what they did in any way mirroring something that actually exists in me? I mean, often thing that we're most hurt and most offended by is an attribute or something that's actually inside us, that this experience is just mirroring to us something that we actually need to just release in our own thoughts and our own behavior and our own judgments. Again, these are difficult things to do, but oftentimes the things that we experience, we lash out at the external circumstance, but oftentimes they are a mirror of the worst parts of us that we actually don't even want to look at. Not that we've acted on it, but it could be that it's their behavior is actually mirroring something going on inside us. Two other tools that I have used, depending on what the circumstances are. One is a burning bowl ceremony. Like if you literally need to, and we're not going to do this tonight actively, but think about it. If there's some circumstance or some person or some situation that you literally just need to like say once and for all, I am like letting this go. I'm getting it out of my life. You literally can write down on a piece of paper what it is, who it is, what the event is, what happened, whatever. Write on a piece of paper and in a safe way. Obviously, do this where you're not going to light your house on fire or light the forest on fire, but in a safe way. You can literally like light that piece of paper up in a bowl and watch it go up in flame. There is something, I don't know how to explain it, but there's something about comes to completion of like, it is gone, right? I am letting it go. You can pray over it. You can, whatever works for you to just be like, we're going to let it go. Okay. And then the last thing is a goodbye meditation. And I actually, after we go through some kind of questions and kind of walking through, if anybody wants to share, I'd love to hear from Daniel. I actually want to walk through something similar to this for all of us, where well, we're just going to walk through it. All right. Where it's kind of like a meditation where we're able to just kind of like visualize and let the person go who we're forgiving, and we let the offense go, and it's gone. And it's we're literally watching with our eyes closed. We're kind of like prayerfully watching it disappear from being inside our, inside our circle and impacting our lives. So if you're willing, we're going to go through that before we finish. So the last thing I'll say is when it comes to if we're the person, like if you're thinking about like, I need to ask someone else to forgive me. I was at a Mary Morrissey event. Mary is this beautiful woman who just has a lot of amazing wisdom that comes through her. And she just happened to share this as she was coaching somebody. Somebody asked her, how do I rebuild trust after I violated the trust? He didn't get into the circumstances. So he just gets pulled up on stage and she's coaching him. And she's like, here are the elements of a perfect apology. And I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. I wrote it all down. So I have used this actually in my life since then, both in coaching people and just in my own life, is, just saying, hey, I'm sorry, will you forgive me? That just falls flat. I mean, we've all tried that, or we've all received that, and we're like, that doesn't work, right? So I just absolutely love this. Like, I take responsibility for what happened. If I could go back, I would change it, but I can't. It won't happen again, because not just it won't happen again, because when we have repeated behavior, it will happen again. It will happen again if we have a repeated pattern of, how we're doing things that are not helpful to people. So saying it won't happen again because this is what I'm specifically doing in order to change my patterns, change my behavior, whatever that is. And then is there anything else that I can do? I just absolutely love this. And I'll make sure you guys have this. We'll, you'll get the recording, but I'm telling you, this is something to share just in your own life and with others. Like, but someone's like, I'm sorry. Like, no, that's just not, that doesn't matter. So if there's someone you need to ask to forgive you, I would just kind of lay it out in this way and stop talking. After you don't just stop talking. Is there anything else I can do? You just wait and let them, if they got a vent on you, just let them do it, right? It may not feel good, but you just got to kind of like let it rip. All right. So, okay, I'm going to stop there. And Daniel, if you're willing to share the beautiful story that you shared on Facebook with everybody, if they didn't see it, this was just profound. And I think it really could minister to everybody in the group. Hey, Michael, nice to see you here.
Can you guys hear me?
Everybody hear him?
All right. First of all, I use the Bible and my relationship with God as my backdrop for how I live. Until I have to deal with things long ago from the past, from people who have long since been dead. Especially my mom and dad. Just a horrific set of circumstances growing up. And but even after they were dead, I carried those failures, the struggles that I had to go through to get past. And every time I, came up against another wall that I had to go through, I would just think back, I hope to God that God is just slapping you around in heaven. And a cousin who knew Dad and Dad's mom and dad was able to tell me that in his family, if you're not number one, you're nothing. And that's basically what was communicated to me. But then I started looking at the many gifts I got from him, just from his personality, his work ethic, his physical, the guy was an All-American in 3 different sports. And a lot of that passed on to me. So I was okay, but I didn't see any of that with my mom. So my anger towards her just festered. And it would come up whenever a circumstance would come up that would trigger it.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, I forgive you, I said, I hope God is still giving you a spanking. And so my daughter and I went to visit her in Concord uh, this last weekend, and we're talking about why I divorced her mom 35 years ago. And so I was saying, well, I explained the situation. I said, once I realized where she was, that wasn't something that I wanted to deal with. And, but Sarah had to deal with it. She had no choice. She was left. She, as a 4-year-old, couldn't get away from it. And her mom remarried, and the new dad explained to Sarah, um, she has the best intentions, but a horrible execution. And so Sarah said that to me, and she wasn't, trying, she just said, here's how I coped. I had to realize that mom had excellent intentions and horrible execution. And when she said that,
Mm.
I immediately thought of my mom. And I'll say this, uh, mom was terrified of men. She had been
Mm.
sexually abused by her brothers growing up. She looked like Marilyn Monroe. You look at pictures of her, beautiful, and used as a sex object. And she was bound and determined that her son
Mm.
would not be
Become
the
one of
kind of
them.
man that would use and
Mm.
abuse women. Wonderful intentions, good intentions. I agree with those intentions. But the things that she did um, to make that happen uh, were very painful, very
Mm.
damaging, and it
Mm.
took me until I was 50 to get over.
Mm. Mm.
And all of a sudden, in that one moment, Mom, you had good intentions. I'm going to stick with that. That's what's important. This thing, hell is paved with good
Good
intentions.
intentions.
Well,
Yeah.
all of us have good intentions, and
Yes.
our behaviors are woefully short of those good
Mm-hmm.
intentions many times.
Mm-hmm.
And I really was inside when I was able to see that she was trying to do something good in this world with her son.
Mm.
And that took away all the
Mm.
malice. It's like, wow,
And
she
that was
cared.
like in an instant last weekend, just to be clear, right? Last
Yes,
week.
yes. I mean,
That's powerful.
after 40 years of, she's not being punished or whatever's happening, it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
40 years of that, and I'm 71 now, to in just one
One
moment,
conversation.
it it left.
That's
And
amazing.
and then what I found myself doing is having a conversation, with my mom and saying, Mom, forgive me for
Mm.
my judgment and for
Mm.
my
Mm.
wanting to hurt you. And then my next prayer was, God, forgive me for not being the kind of
Mm.
gracious entity that you are to me every day and that you're wanting me to be to other
Mm.
people. And it was just a wonderful release. Um, I've just been happy about it ever since. It's been about a week now. I don't have, when I think of mom, I think about, like my dad, the many qualities that I got
Yeah.
from him and not the damage that I had to overcome. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Thank
wow,
you. Do you feel, let me ask you this, do you feel like lighter and freer as well, even when you're just not
Oh,
thinking about your mom, just overall, like a weight is lifted
no,
that you didn't even
yes,
know?
very, very light. Emotionally,
That's
I'm
awesome.
breathing. It's just physically, I just don't have the weight.
Mm, that's beautiful. I mean, that's an example. Thank you. I mean, talk about like a raw, real example here at 71 years old, where you, in an instant, have been freed from something that's been weighing you down
I
for a
mean,
long
I've
time.
heard
And you have
stories.
like, you have the head knowledge of forgiveness, but like, it's
Yeah.
not the same.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh,
like
well,
we know what we're
someone
supposed to
posted,
do.
yeah, someone posted here in one of the comments that this is the kind of stuff you can't hear and read about. It it actually has to happen with you.
Yes, you have to experience it. I mean, you can read it, you can listen to what I'm saying tonight, you can hear Daniel's story, you can cognitively understand it, but until you make a decision, like you experience it, it's hard to explain, right? The freedom that comes from letting all that go, right? And just
Yeah.
being like,
Yeah.
I think about when you talked about best of intentions, horrible execution. My friend Michael Fishman's on here. We've got a good friend, Joe Polish. He always says something like, and I know he's quoting someone else, we judge other people by their actions and we judge ourselves by our intentions. Something like that, right?
Oh,
Michael, is
yeah.
another quote. Like we're always like, well, this is what I intend to do. So we never see that when our intentions don't meet execution, right? We judge ourselves very differently, and then
Yeah.
we judge everybody else by how we're receiving what they're doing, or not doing.
Yes.
um yeah, just thank you for sharing. Does anybody else want to share a story, or you want to share something you're dealing with related to this topic, or I mean, or anything else? We can't go off topic for sure if there's something that's just heavy on your heart.
I'll raise my hand.
Charles, do you want to come on camera?
I don't have the bandwidth right now because there's a
Okay,
big storm heading out our way here in
no problem.
Arizona, so forgive me.
No problem.
Hello, everyone, and hopefully the radio check is coming in good, right?
You're good. Yep.
All right. So some of the things that I've learned that have taught me about life in forgiving is learning the lessons of empathy. And I mentioned this in the chat.
Mhm.
Empathy is one of the hardest lessons for all of us to learn. We think patience is the one, but it's not. It's empathy, because empathy is something you have to experience firsthand. You have to go through it. It's just not a matter of hearing about it or reading about it. So, learning empathy, and I never forget when I was a kid, my mom used to say, you got to have empathy, you got to have empathy. And I grew up as a very strong willed kid, no doubt.
Mhm.
And finally, things in my mind have come to fruition that all of these scenarios that where I needed to forgive was part of my assignment in life, my purpose in
Yes.
life.
Yes.
This actually is promoting me rather than demoting me.
Yes.
And you have to realize, if you're spiritually inclined to think so, that there's an assignment we all have. We all think that we want to be successful and we want to have great jobs and great families. That's a very, very small part of life. We have a specific assignment that has been given to us to fulfill to a certain audience. It's not everyone. And those people are looking for us. In fact, they might be even praying for us. And how do we find out about our assignment? This is something I had to discover through learning forgiveness and learning empathy. And that is just looking at the repeat of patterns by the problems I was facing in life.
Yes. The lessons are repeated until they're
Yes. I'm
learned.
like, what is going on? Why is this always happening? And then the pain that constantly also showed the same patterns, the same attributes. And these patterns also led me to certain people that I seem to attract.
Yes, exactly. They're
And like,
playing their role for you to be able to grow and evolve and learn the lesson, right?
yeah. And I'm like, the same scenarios, but just different faces
Yes.
all the time are showing up.
And you're
And
like,
I,
why does this keep happening to me? As opposed to like, wait a minute, what is the lesson I'm supposed to learn?
yeah. So by looking at all these patterns And by really looking deep down inside, I'm like, wow, this is powerful. This is absolutely great, because all of these things that I looked at as something that was looking to hurt me throughout life was actually looking to promote me. And I kind of thought about Joseph in the Bible, the way his brothers that wanted him to be dead. In fact, they were going to kill him, and thankfully he was sold. And the trials that he went through in prison and just in life, but he never ever felt a disconnection with his creator God.
Yeah.
And all of those situations promoted him. And that's the way I really feel we could find out what our assignment is in life. We'll see everything else really, really small and not difficult at all. We'll just fluff it off because, like, hey, all of these things are meant to harm me, but actually they're promoting me.
Yeah.
And they're going to make
That's
me
awesome.
a better person. So
Yeah.
that's where I've graduated, and I've learned my assignment. It's taken me many, many years to learn what my assignment is. And the thing is about assignments from God that I've learned is that you're not looking at choices. It's like, oh, maybe God wants me to do this, or maybe God wants me to do that. No, he has deemed a purpose already for you, and you don't have a choice. This is a particular assignment, and the more that you're in alignment with your assignment, there's more favor and less labor. So it goes hand in hand, and it's a beautiful thing. And I hope everyone someday can discover, if they haven't already, what their assignment, what their purpose is in life.
Charles, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, like it's like I was sharing in your own words, it was beautiful. You know, lessons are repeated until they're learned. I mean, I personally think we have more than one assignment potentially. Like we may graduate from one lesson and then we continue to move up that consciousness scale. It's like, all right, what's the next assignment? But we'll keep repeating the same. Why am I still dating the same type of person? Why do I keep having the same business results? Why, until you graduate from that assignment and that growth opportunity, everybody's playing their role.
That's
So
right.
exactly. It's beautiful.
Everyone has a purpose.
Yes.
And
awesome.
You don't realize who your enemies are, and they're actually looking to promote you.
They're actually coming in as extras, and you're the protagonist, right? And
right. They're saying, hey, I don't want these people in my life. They're just nasty. They're negative. But they're actually putting you in the right place at the right time.
I love
and
that.
Your friends might be doing just the opposite. They might be holding you back.
Making you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I often say too, this is another saying I have, if there is a lesson we're supposed to learn, right? Like again, the Holy Spirit, the divine, the universe, like whatever your belief system is, like your creator is there, whether you acknowledge it or not, right? And there's opportunities for you to hear those lessons. It often comes first as a whisper, then it's a billboard, then it's a 2x4, right? So we often
exactly
go
right.
like, why is this 2x4 happening? It's like, well, the whisper came your way and the billboard came your way, and now they keep kind of upping the opportunities for you to learn the lesson. So
it's a beautiful picture if you can understand it that way.
Yeah.
And thank you for allowing me to share it with everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Zakiyyah, am I pronouncing it correctly? You had your hand up. You want to share?
Sure. Yes, I know what I put in the chat was kind of wild, but yeah, that's something that I experienced, and it was, in the very beginning, a lot of gaslighting to make me believe that that wasn't what was going on. But what was so revealing to me, I didn't even think this was happening, and until my sister said to me, "I always wanted your daughter, but I knew you wouldn't give her to me," and I'm like, "What? That is crazy. What are you talking about?" Right? So, there was some other betrayals with her as well, but I tried to like look past it. Growing up, I was taught, you're supposed to stay close to family and love family and all of that. So it was kind of like brushed under the rug, and the betrayals got worse and worse. So it's just like recently I was having
what's the relationship now, and like most importantly, what's going on inside your heart now related to this? Do you feel that you need to hang on to anger?
Well, you know what? I believed when everything first happened, because she tried to, take my husband too. It was a lot going on. So, yesterday, this conversation just happened yesterday, right? A couple of weeks ago, I had said to her, because she was supposed to get surgery, And I thought I had let everything go until it was time for her to get surgery. And then I realized like I might have been still holding on to some things. So I called her and I'm like, look, I thought I got over all of this stuff that happened from the past. I want to, talk to you about it. And she said, oh, she don't have time for it. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, this is a sign I should just stop talking to this person altogether.
Mm.
So yesterday I had a conversation with her and I said, I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell me the
Oh, you just cut out. Are you still there? Zakiyyah, are you still there? Oh, we just lost you.
She said, no. I said, you know what? I can't talk to you no more because you're lying. You're not even trying to be real with me because I know the confession you gave to me. So don't try to play with my head. Do you understand what I'm saying?
You cut out for a little while, but I think I get the point. And Zakiyyah, what I want to share, it kind of goes back to what I was sharing earlier, is forgiveness isn't necessarily something that you're having to communicate to the other person. I mean, sometimes we feel called that we need to. The forgiveness we're talking about here today is about what's inside you, and whether you're hanging on to any anger or resentment. But that doesn't mean, I mean, you guys may have a different worldview, but just because somebody's from your family of origin, if they are toxic for you and they're violating your boundaries, like, you don't need them in your life, and you don't need to keep inviting that into your life. So you can get to a state of like freedom from the anger and forgiveness of somebody, but it doesn't mean that you're still allowing the toxic negative behavior or boundary violating behavior into your life. Those are two totally different decisions. Does that make sense? What we're talking about today is about just releasing what's in your heart. But if somebody's just not at a place where they're willing to evolve with you, then you got to set up boundaries to keep you safe. Does that make
Definitely.
sense?
I 100%. Yes, that makes a whole lot of sense. And I 100% agree with you because, like I said, I had thought I had gotten over it. You know how, when we're children and something may happen and we kind of like forget about it or we try to forget about it at least. But
Yeah.
I noticed the more I try to forget about it, the more it was done, or even things got even worse. So it's
Mm.
like I said, I guess it was kind of like a handicap to believe that you're just supposed to love family anyway or keep them close anyway, knowing that they have betrayed you so deeply. So
Yeah, no, I mean, again, people may have different views of this, but as we become adults, if your family of origin is toxic and you do everything you can in order to set boundaries and to continue to show love, like, it doesn't mean that you've just got to keep allowing toxicity into your life. Marilyn Murray is this amazing woman. I'm reading her book right now called The Murray Method. She's incredible. Anyway, one of the tools that she has is called the intimacy circles. And like if you think about concentric circles, and the very beginning is you, yourself, and God, right? And then as an adult, the next circle will be any romantic partner you have, right? And then the next circle is, the friends that you have, your deep friendships with, like, your family of origin is in there, but we often get turned on its head where family of origin ends in the first circle, or they're pushing out like your partner or your children, and it's actually dysfunctional. It's not the way we're supposed to be operating as we evolve into adulthood. 2 cents on that. If you want to check out Marilyn Murray, she's got some great stuff. Okay, we're coming up. We got about 7 minutes to go. I want to do a little exercise at
thank
the end,
you.
but I want to give an opportunity for anyone else to share. Thanks, Zakiyyah. Anyone else want to share something, Glenn? I know Michael always has wisdom, so I'm calling on you, Michael, before we finish. All right, Glenn, go ahead.
Okay. One of the things that you're talking about, to whether you can put them aside or not, I was like my older sister, 9 years older, is going in through that dementia, manic, whatever else.
Mm.
And they can be, well, they lose their filter, basically. And so anything that goes in their mind, whatever else, kind of can really hit you hard type thing. You forgive them because you know their situation, but you're still disappointed. And you really can't just ignore them anyway, because the people in those situations, if you done the nursing home visitations, and I've got a lot of older cousins, some are dementia and whatever else type thing, that you still deal with them, but you really kind of have to put a hard shell around yourself to not really take it personal and that type of thing.
And set appropriate boundaries, right? Yeah.
And you have to forgive yourselves because you have to let yourself be disappointed in them, but yet you still have to forgive yourself it's okay to be disappointed in, but it's still, you have to understand the
Just
situation.
be aware of it and let it go. Yeah, that kind of goes into what what I've been sharing all along, which is like the first thing is awareness. Like, I wish this was different. How am I feeling right now? How is this rising in me? How do I feel it even in my body? Like, all right, I'm disappointed in this situation. All right, so that's okay. You don't think you're like, that's okay to feel disappointment. I'm letting the disappointment be felt, and I'm letting it go. I wish things were different, but they're not. I'm stopping resisting what is, and I'm letting it go. But that awareness of just not letting it be like, push that down and then have it come out in some sort of diagnosis, because it's like building up, and you're just not aware of it. So just the fact that you have that situational awareness of things that are not ideal, but you're aware of them, you're feeling them, and you're letting them kind of pass by like the clouds that are passing in the sky. That's in a challenging world, that's a great way to approach it. Thanks, Glenn. Michael, do you have any words of wisdom? Come on, before you always do, and then we'll wrap up with our exercise.
Well, if you're talking about me, good evening.
Yes.
Martha, it's such an honor to be here with you tonight and this beautiful group of friends that you have. Of course, I have the great honor to know the gentleman you mentioned earlier, Sam Karashi, who I've known for over a decade. And I'm currently doing, healing work with him as well.
Cool.
And I always thought that healing and transformation, if you will, I always thought it was an intellectual exercise. There's what happened when I was 6 years old, and there's what I made it mean about myself. And I can separate the facts of what happened from what I made it mean about me and the blueprint that I set forth to live my entire life. And I'm 64 right now. And Sam told me the simplest thing, and what's obvious is rarely apparent. What he said was, it's not what you know, it's what you feel.
Exactly.
I can know myself and intellectualize myself into just an objective look at what happened and what I made it mean about me. But then there's what I feel about it. And those feelings are residing in my body. They're creating dysfunction. It's energy that lives in my cells, and can this be shown in a laboratory environment or a scientific, rigorous environment? I don't know, but to me, it's real. It's, all of us, we're human beings, all animals are energy. And so this distinction that it's not what you know, it's what you feel has been huge. And I've been looking to heal this moment of when I was 6 years old, probably since I was 6 years old, but certainly my entire adult life. And so that's just been huge. I hope that is supportive.
Yes, of course.
Oh, and the other thing, just one other thing I'll say, excuse me, there's a poet, Anais Nin, Anaisnin, and she said, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are.
Yes.
We all have a lens in front of our eyes, and how we interpret and experience the world, other people, our relationships, which is a function of all the unresolved pain and unresolved trauma that we've lived through in the past. And every breath and every word we take is designed to prevent those terrible things from happening again. And so I think the real freedom in life, there's many aspects of freedom, but one of them for sure is to shed those shackles and to shed that unhealed freight that we all walk around with. It's the human condition.
Yes.
And that's, that's the truest freedom you could ever have is freedom with yourself.
Yes.
So thank you for the honor to share tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Okay. I want everybody to close. I know we're close to time. We may go a few minutes over, and I'm gonna lead us in a little meditation. I've never done this before, so thanks for your grace related to this. But I've participated in similar things, and I'm just gonna kind of go where the Spirit's leading me here. So if we could you can turn your camera off if you want to, if we would close our eyes, and we're just gonna do 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth together. Okay, so we're gonna actually count longer out through the mouth. So we're gonna go in to a count of 3 and out to a count of 5, so that we're breathing out more than we're breathing in. So that actually gets us into a more of a relaxed parasympathetic state. Okay, so together we'll go in, 2, 3, out through the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 3, out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 3, out. 1, 2, 4. Now I want you to call to mind whatever comes to your heart of a person that you feel led to forgive for something they maybe did to you today or 50 years ago. I want you to call that person to your mind. And I want you to picture that person in front of you. You're in a safe place. You can't be harmed by them, but they're about 10 feet away from you. And I want you to picture that person in front of you. And if this happens to be a parent or a spouse, I want to encourage you to just say this to yourself. It could be, your spouse's name or mom or dad. Say these words. Mom, what I needed from you was, and just say whatever comes to your heart. What I needed from you was love, support, whatever it is. Just name whatever comes to you. What I needed from you was. But again, mom, dad, or name the person. What I got from you instead was. You're saying this between you and God and calling this image of this person in front of you. But what I got from you instead was. And this has impacted my life by, just fill it in, like whatever emotion, whatever comes to your heart. This has impacted my life by whatever it is. I've been angry for 40 years. I've been unable to trust people. Whatever it is, I'm stuck. Whatever you feel, I've been impacted. Just name the results. Now, as they're standing there, I want you to now picture that person as if they are 4, 5, 6 years old. Picture them now. They're literally collapsing from the imperfect vessel that they are to the little boy or girl that they were. The innocent little boy or girl that they were. And they've got the divine light of God around them. They are a creation created like we all have been, wonderfully made. And if you can look at them with compassion and empathy, you don't have to understand the journey they went on to get from that innocent boy or girl to the one that harmed you or didn't meet your needs. But look at them in a beacon of light as this little boy or girl. And as you see that light in that innocent child, if you feel you can, if you're moved and it feels authentic, if it doesn't feel authentic, don't say it. I forgive you. I forgive you, for you know not what you did. And as you share that message and as you release that from you, if you can literally picture a weight being lifted off you, like Daniel described, like you literally have like armor collapsing, you have a weight falling off, you literally, as you are now breathing, you're breathing in like bright light, the light of God. You're just letting it go. Forgiving and releasing I will no longer hold on to this rage. I will no longer hold on to this anger. I will no longer have the shortcomings of this person and what they did or didn't do stop me from what I'm called to do. I will no longer have it stop me from my purpose and my journey today, in the present, in the now. From this moment forward, I choose freedom. I choose love. I choose compassion. I choose forgiveness. Just as you breathe in like a bright light. And as you breathe out, if there's anything still turbulent, stuck in you, turbid, just breathe it out like smoke coming out of you. Just breathe it clear. And as you do that with a few more breaths, just allow the little boy or girl to fade into the distance and letting you go and letting it go. And let them fade. They were 10 feet away. They're 25 feet away. They're 50 feet away. Goodbye. You no longer have that power in your life. Goodbye. As they fade like a movie scene into a black screen. They're out of your field and they are out of impacting your spirit and your heart and your body. And you are fully freed once and for all. And I believe that whatever you are able to do within this meditation, together there's a collective spiritual element of us choosing forgiveness and choosing love and choosing life and compassion, empathy together. And we have shifted something powerfully for all of us. Say this, and however you pray, in the name of God, and so it is. It is done. Okay, open your eyes. How's that feel? Good. Guys blessed, hopefully. Anybody want to share anything you felt like you released? You don't have to if you don't want to. I know we're over time. Okay, I will just leave us in this space. And I know that we will continue as a group to hold on to this space, like where we are connected. And it's okay if you really felt like that prayer, that meditation, let that person go. If you could be once and for all like Daniel, like it is done. It could come up tomorrow. It's okay. Rinse and repeat, like rinse and repeat, right? Like, okay, what is this? What am I feeling? What do I need to heal from? What do I need to let go? It's that awareness, that openness, that compassion on yourself and others, and just keep doing that inner work. And I promise you, freedom is yours. Freedom is yours. Freedom is for all of us. Thank you all. You guys are such a blessing. Have a wonderful night. Sorry to go a little bit over, and we'll see you soon. Take care.